It's also known that the flight attendants and pilots fought the hijackers, and they did breach the cockpit door. One flight attendant was boiling coffee or boiling water in the coffee maker to throw on the hijackers. And of course, we all know that one of the last things heard was Todd Beamer screaming, "Let's roll," to get everybody up and into the fight mode. Flight 93 struck the ground 563 miles an hour, 40 degrees nose down in the inverted flight. Flight attendants that day: Wanda Green, 29 years with the company, one of the first African-American flight attendants hired at United. Sandy Bradshaw, Deborah Welsh, Lorraine Bay. If Lorraine was your lead flight attendant, you knew you were going to have a good flight. She was just so competent, so professional, so friendly, always attended to the cockpit, just in a relaxed manner, which wasn't always the case at United, I'm sad to say. And then there was CC Lyles. CC, only been with the company 9 months. She had left her job as a police officer in Fort Pierce. She wanted to be a flight attendant. It had been a dream to travel and to have a little bit safer job since she had 3 boys. We remember Cece partly because she was the last voice heard from the airplane calling home saying, "Tell the boys I love them. We're getting ready to do it now. It's happening." There's a statue of Cece in her uniform in Fort Pierce. That day, of course, changed my career, changed my airline, changed all airline procedures. We have now the locked cockpit doors we've been asking for. They're air marshals, they're armed pilots. We know from Chuck and others that the military procedures changed, our intelligence agencies' procedures changed. They now coordinate information which may have prevented this. Security procedures: take your shoes off at TSA, please. But nothing has changed as much as the lives of my friends and my colleagues and their families. So I do what I always do on September 11th, except I do it privately normally. I turn off the TV, social media, remember my friends and colleagues and their families, and I grieve.
I now want to introduce American Airlines Captain David Corwith.
Good morning, folks. There were 2 airplanes that American Airlines had. Flight 11 was the first flight. I was new to American, and I was at LaGuardia at the time. Only been there about a year. I think I replaced Sal when he retired. So, but there were 2 flights. I'll get back to what happened to me at LaGuardia. There were 2 flights. American 11 was the first one. It was going from Boston to Los Angeles. 767-200, holds about 100,000 pounds of fuel, gross weight in the neighborhood of 350,000. And it was leaving Boston, so it was full of fuel when it hit the towers, for the most part. Piloted by Captain John Oganowski, an Air Force veteran, Air Force Reserve, member of the C-141 transport, and a close Vietnam War veteran. American Airlines 12-year veteran First Officer Tom McGinnis, who was an F-14 pilot, flew Tomcats for the Navy. The flight's crew was Barbara Arestagui, a 13-year veteran flight attendant, Jeff Coleman, Sarah Lowe, Karen Martin, Kathleen Nicosia, who had flown for American for 32 years, and Betty Young, who placed the call to American Airlines reporting the hijacking. 24-year-old Gene Roger, who had volunteered to work the flight that day, and a 19-year American Airlines veteran flight attendant Diane Snyder, Madeline Sweeney, who had worked for American for 12 years and picked up an extra shift for September 11th. The second American Airlines flight, Flight 77, left Washington Dulles to Los Angeles. 757-200 holds about 75,000 pounds when it's full of fuel. Piloted by Naval Academy grad Charles Burlingame, who piloted F-4s in the Navy before joining American Airlines. Co-pilot David Charlebois held an aeronautical science degree from Embry-Riddle, right down the road here, and piloted corporate jets before flying for U.S. Airways and later American Airlines. Flight attendant Michelle Heidenberger had flown for American for 25 years and most likely fought hard to keep the hijackers at bay from entering the plane cockpit. Husband and wife couple, Kenneth and Jennifer Lewis, who had met at an American Airlines Christmas party in 1991. Normally worked separate flights, but had chosen to work together so they could vacation when they laid over in LA. Afterward, Renee May, a 15-year veteran flight attendant, had just gotten engaged a month prior. So where was I? I was at LaGuardia, a new guy, been there about a year, and I was deadheading to Dallas to go to training. 9 o'clock, departure. Plane is full, and I'm being a good Samaritan, checked my bag because they wanted some more space, so I checked my bag. And the keys to my car are in that bag. Away they go. Captain gets on the PA and says, a plane has just hit one of the buildings in New York. We don't really know what's